Wednesday, everybody.
Yes.
Here are Tim and Tony with a new Adobe Live. It's our latest title shot, made in 1 hour 25. And with me, right next to me, it's the one and only Tony Harmer. Tony, how are you today?
Hello. I am buzzing. I am. It's been very busy. I have been at work for quite a few hours now. It's about 5:30.
Almost 2 hours he's awake now. Yeah.
No, I was in there at 5:30, and I decided that today I'm going to do a day in the life on Instagram as well. So I was showing what a typical day is like, where me in my pajamas doing the first bit of work before I have breakfast and a shower and all that stuff.
Tony, what's your Instagram handle?
It's at Tony Harmer.
Oh, look at that. It's right below you. Who would have thought?
Amazing. Whoever does these lower thirds.
That's crazy. Anyway, yes, we're here today to do a title sequence masterclass episode 2. We already did one last week, so if you have missed that one, make sure to watch that after this one. Don't watch it now, please. Stay tuned. Please be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, that's not the chat we're looking at. Make sure, if I can find the graphic, hang on. Make sure to come on over to behance.net/Adobe Live. That's where Tony and I are reading the chat, and that's also where most of the community is chatting. And today we're joined by Oliver and Kirsty and Emma. Hey, Emma. Jackie and Catherine and Sandrine. And I've seen even Gareth is joining us today. Oh my God, it's like a celebrity.
Gareth's sitting there like this. He's rubbing his arm right now.
Just getting ready to roast us all about knowing After Effects. But I'm protected. Just in case Gareth is too mean or drops too many knowledge bombs, I have my invisibility cloak. It's ready. Just in case I will disappear.
Incredible. Just $19.99. Go to tonyharmer.com.
Right. Okay. So we're off to a great start. So Tony,
we are.
Yeah. Of course, since last time we had Dr. Woe, I think we called it.
Dr. Woe.
What's the show name of the show today? Can we reveal
Totes
that?
Defective.
Totes Defective. So what will happen?
Totes Defective.
What will happen? Tony will work on some really cool visuals, and perhaps we will take a look at them in a moment. And I will, just like last time, take care of the audio and make sure that we have a great soundtrack along with the visuals. So, without further ado, should we have a look at your screen, Tony?
Yeah, so we take a few things from the screen. Let's do that. Now, we have all of this ready. Oops-a-daisy. That's a good start. Just jump in with my pen tool and just do nothing at all.
Thanks for joining us.
So, thank you very much. It has been quite the last few days. Been amazing, Tim, and everybody should give Tim a big round of applause, by the way, for the effort he's put in.
Not yet. They don't know later.
No. I know, but I'm just bigging you up.
God.
So what I'll do is, of course, this is TTV8, which I've decided is our channel, Tim and Tony TV, just there, and I put the 8 on the end, and that doesn't infringe the rights of anybody from the 1970s whatsoever. There at all. And I'm just going to jump to a few places here. So I've got some rendered stuff here, so we can have some things there. We've got all of our footage today, apart from the stuff of myself and Tim.
Just quick disclaimer, I haven't seen this yet. I've sent Tony some footage. I have not seen this yet. I don't know what Tony will do with this. And this is okay.
Oh, there's some fun stuff to be had.
Oh, okay.
Fun stuff to be had. There's this bit which I'm particularly fond of. It's because it's got a kitty in it. Just there. And so the show we're emulating is True Detective, the first season of True Detective, which had some amazing titles. It was the one show that when I was watching it, I wouldn't skip past the titles because I love them so much. Now, that took a great deal of time and lots of 3D renders and lots of effort by an incredible team. And if you've not seen it before, you can check it out. In fact, you can go to the Art of Titles and see a thing all about the making of that. So just to set expectations, we're going to do a few things in here to emulate that, but they are nowhere near the finesse and beauty of that title sequence. But we are going to do some blending effects in here like so, and lots of different things going on. We'll look at those. And this incredibly creepy doll, which I had to just turn into like a negative because it was freaking me out. There's Sir Tim just there with his bubble pipe.
Oh, yeah,
and that's a silhouette of somebody we may know as well, the true defective.
Yep. And then we've got
totes defective, absolutely, totes, man. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing. This is all brought together here. We did the whole thing in After Effects and a little bit of Photoshop, teeny weeny bit of Photoshop in there as well. But yeah, we could have stitched it together in Premiere and then toned it in Premiere and done it, but I thought we'd keep it all
by the way,
one place mainly.
This is not a bubble pipe. This is a real one. I bought it just to have some props.
I know. I just can't abide smoking, so I thought I'd just.
Oh, it's unused, of course. The cheapest one I could get.
It's a good prop. That is really good prop. Excellent. I love it. Anyway, that's what we're on with today. And let's say, you said hello to a few people already, and Gareth's there. So we're going to do a few things. We're going to talk about blending, quite a lot of blending, and we are going to. Series 1 was the best, Maddie, as well. And we're going to do a little bit of parallax-like stuff.
And then I will take the sound and smooth out all the cracks.
All the tracks?
Tracks,
you will.
Sorry.
You will. You will. It was cracks originally, but we changed it to tracks, didn't we?
Version.
So people still don't know what we're talking about. So what I think is a good idea is to play through the first one of these comps just here. So if I go ahead and take us to Bleak Farm, which is the first comp that we're working with here. So this is the one that has a little bit of parallax-like motion to it. There we go. So we've got that zooming in/out. So it's a continual zoom between the two things. You can notice that the foreground object is moving up and away. Sometimes you move up and closer, just depends, entirely your gig. And the clouds are moving in a little bit. So we're going to take a look at that first, okay, in Photoshop. So if I go ahead here and go to my Bleak Farm layers just here, so I'll just go ahead and reveal that wherever it may be, somewhere crazy probably, and we'll open that up. And I just realized I restarted just before we began today, because it's always safe to do that. For future guests that know, always do a restart before. It saves a lot of time. Okay, and has my camera frozen, Tim?
Not at all.
No?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Anyway, here we are. Yes.
No?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
You dropped out.
We will be right back when Tony has decided to put his camera on again.
I have. My camera is on. Hold on 1 second. That's it. Should be it starting up. It's Zoom that's... Hold on there.
In the meantime, we can take a look at the chat. Tony parallaxed out. Yes. And do they have mugshots? Right. Tony and Tim's camera have frozen. No, that was just me. Like, I know, very convincing. Tim plays musical instruments. Yes. I actually do have more than one just for this occasion. Just in case, you know, the stream needs more cowbell, I have just some right here. Very important. Make sure to restart your camera to future guests. Yes. Right, Tony?
Very good.
I mean, we can do without your camera in just a moment if we want to continue this.
No, we should have camera now. We should have it. it should be there, showing live on my side.
Well, I think we have to skip it for now, I'm afraid.
No, we can switch to this one. There we go. How about that?
Nope.
Weird. Tim, I have no idea.
Well, you continue and I will
is
try to do some magic.
that.
Perhaps maybe we can I can bring it back.
Let's just have a quick
pretend nothing happened.
Oh, guys, so sorry. Don't know what is going on just there at all. So am I still with you, Tim?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, it's very disconcerting, mate, when it goes like that. So it's just saying, oh, I am here, Tim. Promise.
Should we do a quick restart?
I can. I can just restart Zoom, dial back in, or...
All right, and we will be right back.
Right back. Okay.
Hang on a minute. Do you know what? Tony isn't here yet, but since I'm here, why don't we already have a look at the soundtrack of the stream? Since when Tony's back, we can go back to After Effects. And there he is, just getting things setting up. I was just about to show a bit of the soundtrack, but when you're back...
Were you?
Yes, but then you joined, so...
Then I joined. I did. Right, you can see me this time.
Yes.
Your track
Hang
layout.
on. And we are... Just have to set. And we're back. Right. Okay.
Yes.
Just missed 3 minutes and we can continue. So we're in Photoshop now.
We can. We are in Photoshop just now. So what I did was with this, let me just kind of reveal here what I did. The adjustment layer is just really something that doesn't get passed through to After Effects. So, but it does have relevance in what I'm doing here. So if I just disable this layer mask here, what I did in Photoshop, because I wanted to separate the sky, and in fact, I actually wanted a completely different sky in this file. So I went along and used the Select Sky command here at the top. Now, we all know that in the edit, well, we don't all know, but quite a few of us probably know that in the edit menu, there is this sky replacement option, but there's also one to select a sky, which I did. And then I masked this one off. Okay, so I had nothing in the background, and then I brought in another file here for my sky. What I did also, just so you can see here with this adjustment layer, is I actually brought in a lookup table from the top here, and I thought the one that matched most closely our target of looking a bit like True Detective, which makes great use of slightly desaturated color, and there's lots and lots of things going on in the real title here, but I used that futuristic Bleak thing just there. Then, okay, so if I just quit out of Photoshop, in fact, I'll leave it open so I can come back to it. I'm not going to risk quitting anything else right now because it would be a bad idea. Okay, so here, if I just go into this, I kind of pre-composed it while I was testing something out earlier. So that's making a comp typically inside of another comp. So I'll just double click on that to go into it. Here's what I did. I took the layers that I have from Photoshop and I turned them into 3D objects here, like so. And then I changed their position over time. So I just tap P here. You can see that these things are keyframed. And if I go right back to the beginning, yeah, okay. And then out to the end, like so, you can see that change taking place. Now, the thing that's interesting here that I think will be of interest, because you've probably seen that before, and if you watched last week's, you will have seen some 3D transform in there. But the thing I didn't do last week was to show you the different ways you can actually view 3D inside of After Effects, or 3D layers, because it's kind of 2.5D really. Okay, so I've got these two layers here. If I go ahead and go to my view here, okay, at the moment it's viewing the active camera, which is the After Effects camera. There is another camera here as well. Okay, but I go to the active camera. If I come down to these custom views, this actually exposes the layers to me in a completely different way. Okay, and using the gizmos here, it made it pretty easy for me to change these positions. So you're actually seeing the additional camera there. So you can see the relationship between the camera, okay, and these two elements. You can also see that this was bigger than the actual size of the Photoshop file when I selected the sky, because it goes, oh, well, you obviously clearly don't need that bit, Tony, so I'll just leave that bit in. Does look nice, though. Looks like a stage. So if I go up to the other end, like so, now I'm just going to wind back. Okay, so this is going backwards just here. So forwards now, you can see the foreground is moving away from the camera and the background is closing in. So that distance is changing between the two. And it's made really easy in this view. If I wanted to tune that a little bit more, I could go ahead and I'll just target the background just here, the sky. I can use the gizmo and tune that just using the widget. I know that I'm only going to be changing, okay, that's the point, by the way, at which it overtakes the sky, or overtakes the foreground, which we don't actually want. But it makes it very, very simple for me to go ahead and change that. Now, if I wanted to get even closer to that view, I could use something like the left, because we're imagining these now as being physical planes, which they're not, but we're imagining they are. If I went ahead here and went, for example, to left, I can now see those planes directly. You see that? So that's the farm just there, okay, and that's the sky just there. And I could go to the top if I wanted to and get a different view there as well, okay, and all of those different views. But these custom views here, very, very handy. And if you can see, actually, I have overtaken the foreground there. I thought I had when I was just in that view just now.
Oh, I really like the top-down view. It's just so vivid. You can really see the sky.
You really can.
Yeah.
You really can. So, so they had a camera added as well. If I just go back to the active camera, I could also choose the view through camera 1 as well. So that's the virtual camera that I brought in here as well. Right, and we did that. If you watched last week's and you saw Dr. Woe, then you'd know that we used that to go down the tunnel that we created just there. So I went ahead and used that. Then I pre-composed those things together. I'm just going to close that comp into Bleak Farm just here. I don't think I ran any effects on that. Oh, I did. Actually, one of the things I did here was to run optics compensation here and just change the lens distortion, which is something you can do when you're doing a parallax effect, and it will change it. If I turn it off, if I get to a point where it should be distorting, okay, it's off. So you might just see it'll only be a small move just there. And in fact, you're not really getting that too much there. But anyway, I did it because I used it in an earlier thing, so I thought it made sense. Additionally here, I added that color onto the Bleak Farm. Now, I actually also ended up effectively adding that twice, because if I go to the master file here, so this is the thing where everything is together, you can see that I've got an adjustment layer here as well that has some lumetri color on it. Okay, and it has a particular look which is customized. So I added a second effect on top of that. But here, and this is where the bit with the adjustment layer is pertinent from Photoshop. What I did here is I brought in an input LUT. Now, these are the ones you get to choose from, but you can also browse for one. So if I just browse just here, and in my operating system, if I search for futuristic, like so, and give it a moment, and I think it's futuristic bleak.
Image of me pops up.
There you get it. You get the 3DL file that is installed with Photoshop, and After Effects can understand that. And it's just a file. It just contains a whole bunch of text that you can use that sets certain parameters. And then I brought that in and was able to apply that look there very easily. So if I just turn that off, that's how it looked before, quite saturated in places, but I like the contrast that it gave. And there it is on top of that. So that's the first part of that. Tim, just a quick thing. At what point are we going to change over between the two, just so I know?
That entirely depends on you. I was about to switch over before you came back, but...
Well, we could actually, if I do maybe... Let's have a look where we are in the next sequence. Let's have a look at yours,
yes, we should definitely switch over now. I don't think that's super important right now. I think, that's...
You know what? I'm going to play without the audio, the first two bits here, so you can see how this comes in, and we've got our names here. Okay, as that works like so, and then we switch over to Tim. So let's just play that out.
Did you get the real one? Yes, you did.
And we'll come back to that one in a minute. So yeah, let's have a look at Tim. So if we go to Tim, just here. So this makes, you can see how different this is with the Lumetri color effect that I've got onto the other layer. So just how different this is. Let me show you what this one is actually made of. So of course we've got a background here. We've got a white solid background. I did that in a lot of the comps. Then we've got Tim on top, and Tim came along with a bunch of green screen footage. If I just turn that effect off for a moment, I drew a very quick mask around Tim with the pen tool just to kind of get it. And I went all the way out here because at one point Tim's arm comes up to get his glasses and take them down. So I had to take that into account when I drew the mask. I didn't feather this one. It would have been a good idea to feather it. In fact, I'm going to do that now. If I just tap F and just add a little bit of feathering around that mask. And that's also happening at the bottom. Yeah, go on, Tim.
Oliver, I'm afraid that sunglasses removal doesn't come with a witty one-liner, because you will see why in a minute. But I was super proud when I discovered that I can just stack two sunglasses and like, wow.
It made me laugh. And I asked him to do this at absolutely the last minute yesterday. So it was brilliant that he just popped in and just did it. Just great. So not
yes,
pop in here. He didn't come over from Germany. Come into the studio out the back.
Morning.
There.
And that's anyway, a hoodie, not a mullet, by the way. So Kirsty was asking, Sandrine was asking, yeah, that's a hood, not a mullet.
And then again, key light just there, and a little bit of key cleaner on that. So if you haven't, you'll see there's a couple of things with green screen, but essentially what I did was I picked up the eyedropper here with key light, went to something fairly close to Tim. It's generally a good idea to do that, to pick the color from close to your subject. Then I changed the screen gain. Again, we did this last week. If I just reset that, actually, let me just go ahead and reset that.
Kirsty, so, yes, I'm wearing two pairs of sunglasses. I was just watching a Maddie stream.
You do know that Maddie's in the audience right now, yeah? Maddie's watching along. Hi, Matt.
Sorry,
Matt. Oh. Yes, absolutely. Right. For some reason, I am not picking up the screen color. Don't know what's going on there.
Oh, no.
It's because I've It's because I've not turned the effect on.
Yes.
I've turned the effect on to show that. Oh, when you have a crash like that,
pro tips.
It really does make you spin out. So we'll do that again. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So there you go. So I picked that area there. Now there are some areas here that are a bit fuzzy, just there around Tim's beard and just down here. Fortunately for the thing we're doing here, it wasn't too critical, but the screen gain helps me just grab a few more of the green tones in there. Tim, I look super zoomed in on this. Am I too close with my camera? I think I am.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah, just a bit.
I mean, you're filling the shot anyway, so.
Yeah, I know, but that's more than anybody needs if they haven't had their life.
More sunglasses.
So I just increased the gain and also the screen balance. Those two things helped. You can also use some of these controls here, such as clipping the black and clipping the white. if you're getting really, really fuzzy edges. And another thing that sometimes helps you when you're keying is to actually change the result here from final result to status. And that shows you a different view.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. We're back.
Got it?
Yes, we're good.
Oh, did I drop out again?
No, I just showed up my screen for just a last second.
Yes.
It's
right.
all right.
Ah, okay. You can't wait, can you? I'm eager for you to do this as well. So you can see here black things that will be completely invisible, and white things that will be absolutely visible. And the grey areas around this, that means they're sort of between. Now this chatter and whatever in here, that's quite normal, and it's not. I mean, you need to check it against the background, but this shouldn't really affect the result. And if I come down now and choose final result here, I'm not seeing any real gaps in that. You'll never get that. So that's crystal. Well, I'll say you never. Most of the time, you don't need to get that crystal.
And to be fair, the lighting was suboptimal. Didn't properly light the green screen.
It's that saying, right? Garbage in, garbage out. If you get, I'm not saying your footage was garbage.
Thank you very much. All right.
Well, at least you didn't have to key mine out, Tim. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't, it wasn't the best. And I've got no excuse because we've got proper lights in the studio. So, and then on top of that, I have some jellyfish, which are blended. Okay, here using the overlay blend mode. Now, if you don't know, we should do a thing on blend modes at some point, Tim, I think, and demystify what those things actually are. That would be really good.
That is the question.
Yeah, blend. Yes, will it blend? So the ones that you essentially should know, if you only want to learn 3, apart from normal, which is just, that's what it is. So you can see it's some footage there of jellyfish. Okay, and don't ask me why. I don't know. And then multiply, in which darker colors become more prevalent on the top, lighter colors to white becomes invisible. Screen is the opposite of that, and screen could have worked here quite well. Okay, and it's about neutrality, those two. So in multiply, the multiply blend mode, white is a neutral, it doesn't appear. In the screen blend mode, black is a neutral, so it doesn't appear. And in the overlay blend mode, the blend mode that I did actually use here, grey is a neutral. So what I've done there is I've essentially got the highlights and the shadows of that footage, okay, but it's just clipping out the mid-tone parts. Not that there are great shifts in that, but that's exactly what I wanted, was this sort of texture, okay, over the top of Tim there, like so. So here he is, just doing that. I'm going to drop this down to half res, I think. Oh, it is already. There we are, so you can see it. So if I just run that, and you'll see that worked all right. And then I checked it to make sure that the keying was working for the hand there. There we go. And it looks like Tim's got fab tattoos. There we are.
That's a very healthy skin tone, if I say so.
I think so, if you're an octopus.
And Sandrine is saying, if you can answer the question, what is pin light for? She's in. And also, Reverb Mike wants to know.
Not in this particular show. No. We can, but not in this particular show.
And also when the add blend modes will come to Photoshop. And I think it already is. It's just called differently. Right?
Additive.
Additive.
Yeah. It's there. It's underneath dissolve.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
no?
Okay. I think my audio dropped then, Tim. You still hearing me okay?
Yes. We're good.
Yeah. Weird. It's being one of those
It's a weird day today.
Strange day. This one we're going to come back to. In fact, I'm going to let you watch that, and then we'll hand over to Tim.
Oh, no. The sound, Tony. The sound.
Oh, the sound was
spoilers.
On.
Come on.
Spoilers. There we go. Right.
Oh, that's better.
Some sugar. Bit of a stir. Go on then, Tim. I can't do any more without the sound. I need you to have the sound on. So I think it's over to you, mate.
The soundtrack is brought to you by the clock wipe transition. Right, so
do it.
Tony has asked me to work on a soundtrack that's very close, even super close to the original, because we obviously can't use the original soundtrack. So instead, what I did, I recorded some tracks and I have them here. And right now, I mean, the composition is already finished. I did that off stream because you don't want to watch me sitting here for 4 hours listening to the original track in excruciating detail. Nope. Instead, I already did that. But those tracks are all pretty dry, which means no effects applied. So I suppose we can add a couple of effects. No need to do all the effects because we don't have the time for that. And it's an After Effects masterclass anyway. So should we just listen through the dry soundtrack once? And I just have to do one thing before we can do that, just to see if that's the right track. No, because one of them is really loud and I don't want to blow your eardrums out. And I think it's this one. Can you just check? Yep, it's this one. Okay, let's just make it a bit quieter. And let's have a listen. Here we go.
Here are Tim and Tony with a new Adobe line. It's our latest title shot.
Okay, that's it for now because I don't want to listen to the whole track again and again. So what we have, perhaps we can just go through some of the tracks so you know what and how I did that. So I do have some percussion, which is this one and right here. I have some guitar, which is, I think, here. And I have, of course, the singing, which is this one. Yeah, this one.
Here are Tim and Tony.
And now I think we should apply some minor reverb to some of the tracks because if we listen to, for example, the trumpet, which is so these two tracks, there is no reverb at all. It's super dry. So I think that's one thing we could fix right now. So first of all, I will go to the mixer. And I will go to the send part of that mixer, which is this one here. In there, I can say add bus, stereo. It's called reverb. And to that bus, I would apply an effect. In this case, we could use, oh no, I don't know, reverb perhaps. And let's use convolution. Pick a nice one and have a listen through that in solo. Studio trumpet. And of course we have to up the send volume. Now let's have a listen. Now hear that? I think I stopped my video. Sorry, here we go. Yeah, so now this track has some nice reverb on it, and I can do the same thing because this is a bus, and if you don't know what a bus is, perhaps we can do a masterclass on that one. What did I did already with Joe, of course. You can watch that one.
I watched it. It's good.
Nice. Okay, so if you don't know what a bus is, make sure to watch that one. We don't have the time to go through it today. But now what I can do is I can go through all the tracks. Say, yes, I want reverb on all of them. Yes, this one too. And I can up the gain, yeah, and do a bit of this and there, yes. And now all of those tracks have reverb, which of course doesn't sound great since I didn't pick any specific numbers. But I guess it sounds okay. And I would now do this for all of the tracks, including the ones I didn't listen through yet, like the bass, for example, that could use some. And of course, most importantly, the vocals, which always are pretty dry. And one more thing, and then I will hand it back to Tony, is I want to apply some EQ to the main vocal part of Tony, which is this one.
Here are Tim.
Because I do want to cut out a bit of the low end so the bass has a bit more room. So let's do that. Let's go over to the effects and let's do EQ, parametric equalizer. Let's just scoop out a bit of the low end. Let's have a listen.
Tim and Tony with a new
Of course, I could overdo it. Sounds like you're listening on
the phone.
On the phone. You don't want to do that, but
Adobe Live.
just a bit, just to get rid of this low end rumble.
It's our
No, that's too much.
latest title.
Yeah, pretty happy with that. And that's also, by the way, if you ever wondered, this is how you can create those wonderful telephone sound effects. Just, but we don't want to do that. So, with all of that, let's just pretend I went through all the tracks. I added all the effects just the way I did it just a couple of seconds ago. I would end up with the final master track. And I think this one actually deserves a listen through, don't you think?
Yeah, should we do it with the video? Should we do it with the video on, or do you want to do it from there?
Well, let's listen to part of the track, and at the end, when we watch the whole title sequence, we can listen through the whole track. Right.
Yes.
So let's pick this one.
Here are Tim and Tony with a new Adobe Live. It's our latest title shot, made in 1 hour 25.
Now the trumpets.
Or thereabouts at any rate. We really.
And that's all you can hear for now. And by the way, there's a cameo in there, because you actually can hear me 3 times. But I won't tell you where or when.
So good, mate.
Right,
So
okay.
good.
So that's it from me. Back to you, Tony. Clockwork transition.
Nice. Or the Batman cape transition, as Sean calls it.
Not yet.
Correctly. There we go. And by the way, Tim gave up his Sunday evening to work on that, because I started irritating him on Saturday going, oh, but a great idea for the thing we're doing. Let's do this. And Tim said, okay, we'll take a look at it. And then I kept bugging him and sending him stuff, and then sending him directions going, I forgot to give you the lyrics. Here you go. Da, da, da. Oh, so good.
Well,
Monday
actually,
morning, so good.
Actually, there is one thing perhaps I do want to show this.
Yeah.
I did have, because, I was bored, I did have a working title version.
Yeehaw thing, are you?
Don't want that. Don't want to listen to that.
No.
Okay. No. Well, maybe at the end. Maybe during the outro.
Maybe at the end. Absolutely.
We do have an interesting version, which is a bit more upbeat.
We do. Right then. Anyway, back into After Effects. Just here. So what we're going to look at, in addition to the blending that we've been doing here with Tim, where we left off, is we're going to look at other things that we can do to help with masking. Okay, so we have that in there. By the way, just a quick one. Reverb Mike, you're saying about linear dodge, add. That's not the same thing. It's additive. If you look in the Photoshop blend modes, you'll see that if you go down to dissolve, you'll actually see additive under there as well. In fact, I can just show you. I'll just show you very, very quickly. Yeah, if I get something here that can blend, okay, if I go down to that, you'll see. Okay, it's called, is it divide in here, actually? I thought it was under there as additive, but it's in as divide, I think. But anyway, something like it is in there, but you're right. After Effects has got tons more blend modes, anywho, which is a good thing. Let's take a look at this one then. So we were looking at this, the sugar being added and all of that stuff before Tim told me off for having the audio in here. We'll take a look at that. So let's go ahead and go to Tony T. So this is obviously a shot of me pulling my trademark pucker face. Do that. How's the Lady Gaga thing go? A pucker face. So let's just go ahead then and turn off everything here and just turn that back on. And we will have a look at the effects. So again, shot against the green screen here, and you can see how much this has changed here. If I just turn the screen gain down a bit, you can see how that is creeping in. There's feathering on the edge of the mask as well. Okay, and again, a little bit of balance to bring that out so that it became a little bit less artifacty on the side. And I did use the key cleaner as well, as Tim recommended, to just clean up some of those jaggy edges. Gives you a little bit more room to work with the additional edge radius there. And my mask here for this particular layer, okay, came down across the eyes, which is mimicking what goes on with Matthew McConaughey's face, I think it is, in the actual show, where they have half of his head like so, with an industrial or agro-industrial complex above it. That looks really freaky, Tim. Can you see the eyes just there?
It's like on a Monday morning.
I know, I should have left that in. That looks really, really unnerving. Anyway, I decided to crop that away at about this point here, just above my eyebrows, and then add in this teacup, which I masked really, really crudely. Okay, so if I just go ahead and go to the mask here, I should just be able to say none just for a moment. You can see the rest of the file there. I think I've actually got the top one working with it as well. But anyway, I've got two copies of this essentially. Okay, if I turn on the copy above, you can see the two things together. So how is this actually working? Well, this is the mask just to get rid of most of the sides here. So I went around with the pen tool and just drew crudely around that handle just there, and then up to the top, because obviously the spoon's got to come in from the top just there, and then down and around the other side. And then this bit here really doesn't matter because it's masked off anyway. It's actually behind my head. There you go. There's the thing that was left over. But that still didn't leave me with the result I was after. And there's a cool thing you can do in After Effects called using a track mat. Okay. Now to access that in After Effects, I'll just turn that off just for the moment. You need to toggle your switches over. So by default, this is what you'll have, all your switches to enable different things on your different layers. But if you toggle that, this gives you access to the blend modes directly here. Okay, so you can pick your blend modes from there. And it also gives you this track mat field. And what I used here, right, because there was no alpha, right, so no transparency on that layer apart from where I'd put the mask, I said use the luminescence values, okay, or the luminosity values of the layer above, right? So my copy layer was up here, and you'll see it's got no visibility, but that doesn't mean it can't do something for me. So I just told it to use the luma values from there, okay? And I think if I just back that up just a second, there you go. It was luma inverted just there, okay? So between those two things, I went ahead and did that. That's very odd that that changed just momentarily there, Tim. Let me just wind that back just a second. That should all be as it is. Yeah, there we go. Don't know what. Oh, maybe I turned the layer on by accident. You'll also notice, and if does zooming work on here? I think it does, Tim, doesn't it?
No, it does not.
No, it does not. Okay, well, just here, you'll see that this is the layer that's affected by that track mat. Okay, and this is the track mat layer itself, and it has this small marker here. So that's a quick way visually you can find out where that transparency is coming from.
Can you show that again? Just a second.
Yeah, of course I can. Yeah, just here. Do you want me to just hover over them?
No, yeah, I have it.
There you go. Perfect. There you go. So that's the layer that's actually using the track mat, and this is where the track mat is coming from. Okay, and that is automatically set to non-visible. Okay, as soon as you actually do that, you can turn it on if you need to make adjustments, as I did there. But once it's enabled as a track mat, it will just be hidden by After Effects. And that's what allows me to do that. So you can go ahead then, and you see if I move through, I just checked here for when the sugar was being poured in. Okay, and there's my lining up face. So all I had to do was pull the footage that I had into that place. So I got to the point here where the sugar was just being added. So I wanted to go with the realization, yeah, that my world was about to sweeten up here, like so.
Yeah, I've seen the sugar, but where is the honey?
Anyway, there you go. And that's how that works. So what I was using there was another layer, okay, to drive that transparency based on its luminosity values, right? And that gives me some apparent transparency. Just so you know, if you want to view a layer's transparency, that's something else that After Effects has for you. It has a view for that. And just in this region here, just to the left of where it says active camera, you can actually turn on the transparency view there and see the transparency for other layers. So if I turn these things off, there you go. There's the actual transparency. You can just toggle that on and off as you need to, okay, for that stuff. And that gives you that composite. Now, I didn't blend it. I didn't spend too much time blending those two things together because overall, this was just for a comedic effect. It was just to make you chuckle while you were watching it. It's very, very typically me, I guess. And once it's got this on top, of course, it's more in keeping. But again, it gives you a little bit of a surprise. So if we just play that one forward, just here. In fact, I've got one where it's rendered out, so it'll be quicker. So there's Tim taking off his glasses. Okay, and then here's my sugar edition. See, that works pretty well through those two. Now we come to the kitty in the ink. Okay, so little kitty. Which, bizarre fact, Tim, my wife has tattoos done by somebody called Kitty, who runs a thing called Kitty's Ink. How wicked is that?
I don't know what to do with that information.
Well, I don't know. It's probably too far for you
you
to come along to have a tattoo. And not that anybody can do that at the moment anyway. But there you are. Right, so into the kitty comp.
I do have a Sharpie.
You've got a Sharpie.
Yeah. Just draw something on.
That would work. Yeah. Yeah. And the great thing is after a period, you can wash that off. So what I'm going to do here, I think actually, is I'm going to rebuild this one. So I'm actually going to create a new comp. So you can see this. So 1920, 1080. I'm not too worried about the amount of time here because I just want to demonstrate how this thing comes together. How's the chat going on, Tim?
They're a bit confused, some of them. Sandrine the interface is so different to everything I know. And Jackie says, I get lost so easily. Yes. It's a bit tricky getting into After Effects, but once you just get into it, it becomes really, really easy.
It is. Just take it one step at a time. Oliver said earlier on, this is how I have I have so much energy. Direct infusion of sugar and tea all the time. There you go. Yeah, that's actually true. Right, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to bring in, I think I'm just going to check here. I did have colored ink at the back. So let's just bring in that footage. So if I just collapse this up and I'll show you the footage I actually used here. So this was a piece of 4K footage. So really, really big. Just saying, in fact, I'm going to drag it in. Now, here's the difference. If I drag this into the comp area, it sits where it lands. And sometimes you want to do that. But if you want it so it's centered in the comp area, drag it down into the timeline like so, and that centers it, which means if you want to scale it, as I do just here, I'm going to tap S, okay, and then just change the scale. You can see how that comes down. 50% should bring that into, I've just gone at 52, but that should bring that into range for you. So you can see it was a lovely piece of colored footage, but I loved the flow of that ink there, like so. Okay, so you can see how that's running. Really nice piece of footage. I have no idea if that's real ink or if it's digitally manufactured ink, but it's really, really good.
Probably cheaper to do it in real life and faster.
It is. It is. We're doing tons of that at the moment, actually, but there you go. So this one here was at the normal blend mode, right? So you can see that's exactly as it is. If I turn this off, just here, these layers just here, okay, then for some reason that's still showing as being toned, and I don't think I dropped an effect on that. Oh, I did, actually. but we can do that anyway. Right, so I'll go here. So I added an effect to this, and the effect was toner. So I'm going to come across to effects and presets. Let's type that in and then drag that and drop it on top here like so. Okay, then I went to the midtones here, which is essentially the shadows on this are quite dark. The highlights are very, very, very light. So I'm going to go for the midtones. I just clicked on this, took it to a particular range like so. I think I went a bit lighter.
How is this effect different from tritone?
Tritone uses 3 specific colors.
I mean, so does this one, right?
They're mapped, yeah, but they're mapped slightly differently.
Okay.
And tritones, you can actually have a curve per tone as well, whereas this one does not give you a curve per tone on there. So, for example, you could change the curve from that, or that's how it should work anyway. That's how it works in Photoshop from there. But anyway, that's just the one I used. I just used the toner to change the color because I wanted to do that. And that's available in the menu here from the effect menu, and come down to color correction, and you will see CC toner just in there. So I brought that in like so. Then I added my cat footage. So I went ahead and got that. So let's go ahead and find the cat, which I named so well I can just find it really, really easily. Let me find out what it was actually called. Oh, GS cat, grayscale cat. There we are. So if I go to G, there it is, GS cat. Bring that in, and I'll bring that in above that one. So this again needs scaling down. So tap S and scale that in like so. Are they enjoying this, Tim?
They are asking if that's if this tritone will be implemented in other Adobe products. I don't know. So
I don't know. Yes.
No idea.
Anyway, there you are. It's a thing normally associated with print tritoning anyway, because you're normally dealing with ink. So you've got duotone, tritone, and quadtone.
And Jackie says, just like that. Head explode emoji.
So here's my cat. I don't think I had it central in the screen. I think I moved it across because I wanted it to be in with the ink, but we'll do that in a second. So we'll go to the effect menu and we'll come down to keying, and I'll choose key light again, 1.2, and I'll go ahead and grab that green, which is a very, very, and I suspect strongly digitally presented green screen just there. Okay, to drop that in. Again, if you're getting stuff from the edges, if it's shot where you've got like a limited, like a fold out green screen, you can do that. You can always use masking as well to get that. Maddie's saying it reminds me of Bond, James Bond. Oh, the ink. Yeah. I get it. So now I put the cat on there, and I changed the cat's blend mode here to screen, which means that the lighter colors will come through. So I'll change the blend mode here like so, screen. So now you can see that, but you can also see that the cat there, and originally, by the way, in the original version I did of this, there was a goldfish in there as well, but I took it out because I decided I didn't want a goldfish in there. I didn't want people being upset thinking that goldfish may be harmed in the production of this sequence. So I got that like that, and I'm just going to move the cat across a little bit there because I think that works pretty well, but it is spilling outside slightly of the ink just there. And so what I want to do is I want to kind of catch those two things together. So what I did this time was I used the luminosity of the ink. So I created a duplicate of this layer. So I'll select it and Command D to create a duplicate and bring that up to the top. This time I used a really cool blend mode that would just be total everything if it arrived in Photoshop. If I go down here, I've got these options here, stencil, okay, and silhouette. Yeah. Now you've got stencil based on alpha, but we already know, because you've seen the footage, there's no alpha in this. It is just footage that literally has a white background on there. But stencil luma turns the light points here into an actual stencil. So now what you're doing is you're seeing through that, okay, and the cat is just blending in between those two things. And if I turn everything else off just for a second, Well, actually, I'll have to keep something on at the background there that you'll see it actually darkens up that tone as well there. So that's how the cat came about like that. And then the cat blends in there. You can always use a secondary blending mode as well if you want, such as the opacity. If you're getting something that you like the overall effect, but it's too strong, just tame it down a little bit with a bit of opacity as well. And there we are. So
all right, just as a reminder, we have about 30 minutes, 35 left. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to come on over to behance.net/Adobe Live, behance.net/Adobe Live to watch the stream and chat with the community.
Yes. So here it is when it's got its final toning on it, which is applied on this adjustment layer at the top of this master comp just here, which we'll get to right at the last bit. So the next bit here is this section, which is talking about us having only 1 hour 25 to actually do the thing itself. That's why the clock's in there. Okay, and then answering your comments. I thought that would be funny if we included a good old analog typewriter in there to do that. That would be hilarious if we actually had to type out postcards and send them to people, Tim. That would be really funny. Maybe we should do that. We should have an analog week. No, not really.
Send the flip book like Adobe Live.
Absolutely. And then there is also myself there turning slightly in front of the camera there as well before Tim's second go at the camera.
What? So
let's go ahead and have a look at that. Okay. Oh no, it was your little friend that we put in for that one. Yeah. So here's how that looked before that. And there's a few different things going on in here. Okay, so let's just turn these off and wind back to just the clock. So not a lot going on with the clock. The clock is pretty much the footage as it came in, like so. So just drop that into the timeline, just as you've seen happen before. Oh, Catherine's got to go. Bye, Catherine. So that just is what it is. Then on top of that, I've added some more ink. So I took the ink that I used in the previous scene, if you want to call it that, okay, or the previous comp, and I just flipped it. I just right-clicked on it and chose to transform it. So I just right-click, transform, and then just used to flip it over. I flipped it horizontally and vertically, so you're now getting clouds of ink moving in the opposite direction just there. Okay, so you can see how that's working. And this time that is blended as a stencil. So stencil Luma, everything underneath that is affected. Yeah, so no things have to go above it if you want them to show up, because it will literally work on everything underneath it. Then I went ahead and added the typewriter just here. Okay, and I faded the typewriter in. So I used opacity just here. Okay, and went ahead. I think I did. There we go. At this end just here. So this is all about time. Yeah, so we have 1 hour 25, and then it starts to say as we talk about your comments. So there's the typewriter coming in. You can see that's a very straight fade. This was in the overlay blend mode. So again, just catching the shadows and the highlights, the midtones becoming invisible just there, or neutral. And you've got this really nice gritty kind of blending going on there with the darker colors of the underlying layer. And that carries on throughout that. Okay, that whole thing. And above that, we've got this layer that has me on it. Okay, and you can see that's me. That's my normal silhouette, by the way, just there. That's what I look like for reals, because I'm made of paper. I'm constantly printed out at Adobe, 30 sheets for every second. Just there.
Just wait until we start streaming in 60 FPS. It's going to be so much more expensive.
Now they're going to need more printers. I know, crazy. But we are using environmentally friendly ink. So, okay, so this one fades in like so. Okay, and bizarrely, it would help if I turn that layer on. So now we'll see that fade in, just going on there. So this looks very, very different. Okay, to start off again, this is green screen, so the mask is on there. as well going on. So fully opaque just there. Now here I'm using an old version of a blend, a classic difference blend just there. Okay, and if I just go ahead and I think if I tap you here, you can see all the effects that I've got inside of there. Okay, moving across, and then that blending, because the underlying layer starts to change, okay, underneath it there as well, you can see suddenly that is significantly.
And now we have Creepy Tony.
And now you have Creepy Tony in there, which is good. And you're starting to get these really, really bright colors coming out. Essentially, the fun thing to do here with these things, if you don't know what blend mode you actually do want to use, it's classic color dodge I'm using there. I thought that was a bit odd because of those reds in there. If you don't know what blend mode to use, just as you can in Photoshop when you've got the move tool selected, right? That's in Photoshop. Here it doesn't matter. Provided you've got a layer targeted, you can just walk through the blend modes using Shift plus to move forward or down the menu through the blend modes, and Shift minus to move up. So if I thought, oh, I don't know if I like that, I could use Shift minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times there. You can see that. Okay, and then wind back through those so you can do it. Do you know what the one is that catches everybody out, Tim, in blend modes? I tell you, it's dissolve. Because, in fact, I'm going to add something else on here just for a second. Let's go ahead and add this goldfish, because we had the goldfish, so I just want to make sure that we use it. There is the goldfish. Wow, that's big. That we're going to need a bigger boat. Let's remake Jaws. No, anyway, right.
Right, I get the shark.
So we've got this goldfish just here, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the blend mode to dissolve. So that's the second one underneath it. Now, all of these three things here are from the normal blending group, right? The normal blending group always requires a secondary form of blending to activate it. Well, I don't know about dancing dissolve, but in Photoshop, this definitely does. So if I choose dissolve, you might think, well, it doesn't do anything, but it really does require that secondary blending to work. So if I switch across here, I'm just going to tap T to get my transparency / opacity control here. As soon as I start to bring this down, you can see the blend mode taking effect just there. And the more transparent it becomes, the less opaque it becomes, then the finer that noise grain becomes on top of it. Right? So it's one of those that requires a secondary blending mode to work. And let's just answer that question actually that I asked myself. Does dancing dissolve work the same way? It looks like it does. Yeah, so that one just has a different thing, presumably with a sort of parameterization, because I've never used that blend mode ever dancing.
Well, as far as I do remember, dissolve always has the same pixels going blank at
so
a
dancing
particular
will just continually
opacity.
remove it.
And it should be the same for all the layers in the composition. So you can do some interesting blending, because at least in Photoshop it is that way. The same pixels will be missing if you set the same blend mode, the same opacity of every layer.
Yeah.
So you can do some interesting blending with that. And dancing dissolve, I suppose, will change with every frame.
I'm glad it doesn't involve me actually dancing, because that's something nobody needs.
Well, that's for next week.
That's for next week. Then we get to a bit here where this sequence, again, this is just completely blending. This sequence just here, this small bit, I'm calling it a sequence now, I don't know why. This comp here, completely blending. Okay, so let's go ahead and have a look at that. That is made of 2 layers. Well, actually, that's not strictly true. It's made of a pre-composition, okay, and an additional layer on top of it. So let's drill into that and take a look at the pre-composition. So I'm just going to double click on that so you can see what's in here. So there are 2 layers in this one. It's going to bring this one along like so. I'll turn off the top layer. What?
That looked interesting with a negative applied.
Oh yeah. No, it's good. It's good. But then I steer it around. That's why it's pre-composed, because it was a tricky thing to do. So what I did here was this, right? Is I've got this footage of a sawmill, yeah, like so. So you can see that
Obviously.
stuff, and there's loads and loads of debris flying away from that stuff being cut through. And the exercise here, right, is really about texture. And that's what makes a lot of the things in the actual True Detective show titles, and many other titles indeed. My favorite one at the moment, by the way, is one for Pennyworth on Amazon Prime, the story of Batman's butler when he was young. The snogging Batman's mum, spoiler, but anyway, there you go. Yeah, so texture is the thing. That's what adds, and that works in everything. Texture works in Photoshop, texture works in Illustrator, it works especially in vector graphics to provide something rich. So I've tried to enrich it with a bit of texture. So I added on this layer. Now this layer is set to silhouette luma. Yeah. So what it's doing is it's creating the silhouette based on the luminosity of that picture. If I change it to normal, you can see exactly what that footage looks like. Now, again, if I switch on my transparency view here, nothing changes because there is no transparency on that. That is the footage exactly as it is. There you go, like so. So that's how it looks. So I went ahead here and changed that because I wanted to create that silhouette based on the brightest pixels. You see, you can change it here like so, and it creates that silhouette. So it's knocking out, and there are other ways to do this as well, by the way. This is just the one I used on here. Yeah, so it's knocking out everything that I don't want from the sawmill there. I don't particularly want the blade action from there, but I do want the texture that's given by the debris. And then I brought those two things together and pre-composed them. So like made them into a miniature comp inside the other comp here. So if I just turn that off and go back to the woman fade thing here. And then I added the footage again. In fact, what I did was I actually copied it and pasted it because that way I knew everything was in the same position. Yeah. And then dropped it down like so. And then changed this to multiply. And if you remember, dark colors are more persistent in the multiply blend mode. White is a neutral just there. And so that blended down like so. If I just change this to normal, right, you can see it's completely opaque. That's exactly the same thing. So that's where I'm just combining the same elements to bring things together. And unlike in Photoshop, where every layer you have makes a significant impact on the file and all of that stuff, in After Effects, it's just calling in the information from somewhere else. So it's all pretty low on the resource. Well, it's not low on the resource side because if you've got rendering going on there, but it's low on the file side of things. And there you go. So you've got that nice sparkly effect just there. You can actually see the saw blade right at the very top there, just on her forehead there, like so. So go back to that. Any questions, Tim, from anywhere?
Sandrine
So I'm about to show Creepy Doll.
No, Sandrine just says, dissolve on a smart object with a lens blur works well for giving non-linear noise. Yeah, and Kirsty says, this is just too much fun. And Stuart is thanking you for spoilers.
Oh, yeah, Steve. Thanks for that. Cheers. Well, I'll be watching that later on. But anyway, now I've saved myself an hour. Anyway, let me show you this one here, right, involving an old telephone. And you can see here that there's something going on in the background. So I think we should examine this comp, which is called Creepy Doll here, like so. So let's go ahead and turn off that. So this is just some footage of an old style telephone. There, like so, spinning out. There, like so, spinning out, spinning around slowly. So high frame rate footage in there. Oh, that was the other thing about my teacup head. That was shot at 100 frames a second for that particular.
Okay, yeah. So it's in slow motion.
Slow motion.
If you play it at normal speed again.
If you play it at normal speed, yeah. So anyway, there you go. So we've got that high frame rate footage there. And then on top of that, we have this layer, which we ought to examine somewhat. So if I go ahead and turn the effects off here, okay, you can see the effect that layer is having. Here comes Tim's favorite Creepy Doll on there. I'm going to change the blend mode. Here it's set to divide. Let's go ahead to normal. Here's this. Where did this thing come from?
There is a whole story behind it involving multiple Adobe Live colleagues.
Okay. By the way, if I ever call Tim up, we have a little Zoom. Yeah, he leaves this thing sat on the chair and he uses a voice modulator to change his voice from there. But anyway, here's this completely hideous.
That's what Tony thinks.
Thing just there. Okay, but we changed that out to divide so that it laid nicely across the top there. So I wasn't too worried about the overall effect as it had on the phone just here, because again, when it got back into the actual composition, you can see that that's the main master composition. Yeah, that's how that all worked out. Just there, nicely toned down. And we still had this thing. There's a small break in the audio just here, which I'm just going to play to you. Yeah, and this was just to cover that break. So it changes from some vocals to this break. Oh, and actually I should have done the rendered version there because it's showing down the render. I'll do that again. And again.
No, that's no sound.
That's because it's because I'm in a different timeline. This is the one with the renders.
We're gonna do some.
Anyway, we'll get back to that in just a minute.
Oh no.
So the next one is again, this is more blending just here with Tim and this car, which is, I go back to the master just here. Okay, this I originally called this car seek, right, or short for car sequence, car seek, and then I changed it to feeling car seek because should anybody come across the file later on, it will amuse them. My entire life is about making funny things. And Gareth's saying, Apple B to set your point in point and hit return, not space to do a RAM view. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, it used to be 0, didn't it? You could do it that way. You can actually configure it to do whichever way you want, I think. So there you go. I've got mine set to spacebar. Just there. There you go. Numpad 0. That was the thing on there. So feeling Carsec, just here, is made of 4 layers. Okay, so again, this is one here that is using a track mat. So if we turn off the top here, let me just take you to a point where you can see everything, just about here. Here's Tim with his bubble pipe. We'll turn this one off.
Well, that's also pretty good. Just a silhouette.
Well, that is the track mat coming from, again, from you just here. So the layer here is you. It's targeted as a track mat.
It looks like my head is somewhat split. So that's where this headache comes from.
That's where the headache is from. Absolutely. But what I did was I took that there, and this really is an alpha mat because that layer does have alpha transparency. If I turn off the other layers just here and go back onto that, and now if I click through, you can see there is that alpha. So the combination of the mask that's drawn around it, okay, originally, and also, so if I click on that, you should, oh, actually, that one's just straightforward cut out. But the keying just there was good enough to take that and use it as a track mat here. So it clipped the contents of that layer, okay, into that. So we've now got that nice thing. If I just turn off the alpha mat here, you can see it is a car. Again, this is another piece of high frame rate footage that's been bought in.
And a track mat is just a moving mask defined by other images.
Yeah, it is defined by defined by a layer or a layer's content. So
I see.
If it's using alpha, so it's using the alpha of another layer. And you've already seen that it can use Luma, but that just depends on things being absolutely light or dark. But there's so many different ways you could approach that. But you choose which layer, the layer above it, yeah, is the way it works. You do that. And so that's nicely clipped into there. If I now turn you, and your second layer there was added on at hard light, which meant there was enough contrast, yeah, in there to show the car clearly. We're not after any sort of photoreal representation of you at this particular point in here. This is purely artistic license to do that. Yeah, and you can see how that splits out nicely, and the closer it gets. And it also gives, again, nice texture, especially as your head turns there. It gives a real focus onto your eyes. And if we were doing something like a crime drama like True Detective, it is an awesome looking car. by the way, Oliver. Doing something like that, the
They
eyes are
never
very
say that
important. The
about
eyes are
me.
important. Most drama. Huh?
They never say that about me. Always
Well,
the
they
car is
should do.
awesome looking.
I should.
Sorry, I interrupted
Yes.
you.
That's all right, mate. So there's Tim. Let's go back to the renders just here. We are nearly there, folks. Right, this one, slightly different. Just here, right? So there's a few things going on in this particular composition. Okay, so this one's motorways. You can see these were actually built in order. You don't normally have to build things in order when you're doing this kind of stuff, but they were pretty much built in order. So this one is the motorways footage here, like so. So let's have an examine. If I take it to the middle here, let's have a look at what we've got going on just there, right? So you can see there are a few layers here that are not currently visible or not being used. Okay, and I think we've got a couple here that have been pre-composed just there. In fact, there you go. Right, so there's the original footage of me. If I turn off the stuff on top, you can see that. So all I did was turn slightly and looked at the camera, but the secondary motion is coming from the position change here. So this has a position change over time. So even though I'm standing still and doing that, what I've done is I've moved myself across the screen as I turn, which gives you an interesting look. It actually tends, optically, it's almost as if you're extending the curve of motion. Yeah, it's not, whereas it was just a turn like that with my upper body. Yeah, because it's moving across the screen at the same time, it has the effect of kind of extending that curve and almost making it look as if I'm being panned at the same time. Whereas it's actually me that is really is being panned rather than the camera. But you can see there that as I move that across, it's a sneaky trick. Yeah, so just turn nice and slowly, like so. I'm at half res here because just to optimize it for the screen, but you can see there you go. That's that sneaky trick to go ahead and do that. Anyway, we didn't use that particular layer just there. What I decided to do here instead, okay, was a little bit of pre-composing, right? So I've got a few things under here. And again, this is using silhouette here, right? Luma. So it's using the luminosity of the motorway pre-comp here. Let's go ahead and have a look at that. So let's double click on that. This is what is inside of that. So we've got our jellyfish here set to lighten, in which the light colors will become more prominent. And then underneath that, straightforward and simple, and I can turn the audio off for that footage actually, I just noticed that. We've got an aerial shot, okay, of a very nice motorway just there. I have no idea where that is, but it doesn't look like Birmingham. But where our most confusing motorway intersection is. That's fantastic, wherever that is. Okay, so just that, and the two jellyfish combined, then when they're silhouetted through the footage of me, you can see that gives a really interesting texture, and the fluidity of the jellyfish enhances that still further. So you've got this regularity, there's almost grid-like regularity underneath there provided by the motorways, which if you look at it as it is right now, and in fact if I start that playing forward, it almost looks vascular. That could almost be the flow of blood, and then the jellyfish become like plasma within that. Do you seeing that?
Yes, yeah, we're all seeing it, Tony. Yes, we are. Yes,
well, that's where I was going. Anyway,
honestly, it reminds me a bit of an X-ray, like.
Yeah, and it gives that, well, because there's sort of an inversion in there as well. Yeah. So yeah, it does do that, and that's, you know, but that's all driven right by this silhouette lumen. If I just change that to normal, it's exactly, you're not seeing anything under there from the pre-comp, but that's being dropped in and silhouetted into there. And again, there's a couple of track mats in there as well. I think in there as well. Oh no, they're just set to alpha. So there we are. Right, so there we are. We've got all of that stuff going on there. How are we doing for time?
About
10 minutes.
Yeah, 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on how much you want to stretch it.
Quick plug of water. Then we get to play the whole thing.
And Angus is saying, loving all the layer blends. Yes, all the single layers.
The single layers. Then we're into the final bit just here. Okay, so this is the very last bit. This is my flames comp just here. This has got a few different bits to it, and I basically put the whole thing into one composition here. So let's go right back to the beginning here. Okay, and we'll turn off these layers like so. So it's a reuse of a Photoshop layer to add some texture. Okay, so I've used the clouds that I used earlier on. They're zoomed in slightly and repositioned. Okay, so we've got this sort of nice halo that's going on just here. And on top of that, I dragged in the footage of the clock face that was used earlier on, but just so you weren't looking at exactly the same footage, I flipped it vertically. Now, hoping at that particular point that nobody was going to notice the fact that the numbers were on the wrong side there, technically. Yeah.
Now we notice.
You're looking for those sort of, well, that's because I've just pointed it out.
Yeah.
But those are details that you won't really pick up in the whole thing because there's so many other things going on that I won't be looking for. But again, it adds to that overall texture just there. Okay, so that was sent to Stencil Luma for the thing underneath it. And because there's a lot of bright points in there, it makes a really effective hit on the cloud. And it becomes almost ink stain-like in these different places. That's what I really like about that. Then there were the flames. So the flame footage, if I just change their blend mode here to normal, this is how the flames footage came in. Like so, as flame footage tends to be, almost always shot against black. And so what I've got there is I've got an awful lot. There is highlight information in there. I definitely don't want the shadow information. I want the midtones and the highlights. And the best candidate, if you want the midtones in terms of blending, is overlay. So I simply set this to overlay. Right, so, and then I got the effect I wanted. I wanted this kind of burning off time thing going on just there. Screen would work for the highlights, and there's nothing to stop you duping the two things together. So doing a duplicate of that and having one that's at screen and another at a lower opacity doing overlay if you want to catch all of those things. If I just change this to screen like so, you can see the difference that has there. It doesn't quite have enough for me, but like I said, if you wanted to dupe the two things together, there's nothing to stop you doing that. If I just switch that back to overlay, you can see that I get that slight darkness as well from the top, just a tiny hit of it, which gives me sort of a vignette that comes into. So then from there, I've got a couple of pictures of people that we love so much. And there's lyrical content that alludes to these people. And I thought it'd be so wrong if we didn't actually include them some way. But what I did think as I was going along here is, before anybody appears, I ought to neutralize the flames. There ought not to be any flames at this point, because otherwise it would look like somebody's emerging from the flames, and that could have all sorts of connotations and repercussions probably. So what I did was I kind of settled the flames down, okay, and just changed their opacity so they were completely gone, and then eased in this picture of our beloved Rufus just there, blended across the top, completely without his permission, by the way. Sorry, Rufus. Brought that in like so, and then also brought in at the same time lovely Emma as well. So we finished up with the two of them like so. Okay, blended both in the overlay blend mode there, so we're getting the mid-tones. The highlights are coming through nicely because of the underlying content, so it's all working together, all of those things. And if we look at the master renders with the toning on top, okay, you can see how that comes in. The flames are settling down. There's Rufus. Yeah, and
I always knew the roof was on fire.
The roof. Oh, very good. Hey, Tim, that's really good. And then once I've got all of those things, once I'd got all of those things in and in sequence, here's another tip for you, right? If you're sequencing things together like this manually, what I tend to do, if I want to make sure that everything hits, there's no gaps between the compositions here, I target something like this, the first thing in sequence, and I tap O. Yeah, and that takes my CTI directly to the out point of that comp. I then get the next comp, and I just hit the left bracket key on my keyboard like so. Okay, and it takes it to the front of the CTI. If I tap my right bracket, it does the opposite. Yeah, okay, so those are the ones on an English keyboard to the right of the P key, okay, on the keyboard. So those are brackets, not the parentheses that people often confuse them with. And then I go O on that one, and then I do I make the next one active and do my left bracket, and then I tap O, and then I make the next one active wherever that is, yeah, and I do my left bracket, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on, until they are all sequenced, because we're using hard cuts here on this one, because I'm kind of staying true to the actual original, which used very few transitions in between, and also because we were running out of time at this point to get this ready before the live. Hey, there's Rufus.
Huh? What? Sorry.
There was a momentary glimpse of Rufus. I don't know what was going on there. Then it was just a matter of toning it with this adjustment layer. So with the adjustment layer, I did a couple of things here. All right, so I'm going to turn off the effects that I used here just to get this tone going. So the first thing I wanted to do was deal with the color. So I used Lumetri color just here, okay, and this one I added some faded film, right? So you can see that's an effect just here. Let's go for, and you can see if we just use that actually. So I dropped that down to about 77% here. This is with no faded film, or moved it up to about 77% just there. So it's kind of in that region. I'll take it back to that exactly so you don't notice a difference when we move on. Yeah, I sharpened it. You can also sometimes just add a little bit of unsharpening by taking that down into a negative value. And here's another top tip for you. If you're working on a Mac, hold down the Command key. Control on Windows, I think, does the same thing. That will make, if you're using stapler accident finger, it will make it a little bit slower when you're doing that. So it gives you that sort of fine point control that you may actually want just there. A bit of negative vibrance, again, sucking the color away, but not completely, not totally desaturating it, just bringing that down like so. Okay, and dropping the saturation there overall as well. And you could also add a bit of split toning there if you wanted to, but you can see I didn't. Once I'd done that, I then added a bit of fractal noise. Now you might remember we used fractal noise if you watched last week, and as so many of you are regular viewers, it's just the way it is. You've probably seen it. But with fractal noise here, I use that. If I change the blending for this is set to lighten. I'm going to choose none just for a moment. I think, will you be able to see that? You should be able to see that. Yeah, there you go. Because I wanted this effect as if it was old, grainy footage. And you can just about see, I've tried to do it very, very softly. So it's barely perceptible, but you do get a feeling that it's kind of antique-y. So I used fractal noise. Okay, I'll go back to the light and blend mode in just a little bit. I use soft linear just here, which I think is actually the default there. Made it a bit more contrasty, dropped down the brightness a bit, so I was just getting what I wanted. I knew the light and blend mode was going to take most of that darkness away anyway. And then in the evolution options here, right, so how it's generated, I alt-clicked on this, okay, so that I could add an expression. So I alt-clicked on there and then got to the expression, and I just did it to evaluate over time like so. So what I did was I typed time. Okay, so that particular property. So this is the property I want After Effects to do. And then an asterisk as a multiplier. And I think I did it a fairly low value because I didn't want it flickering with that. So what I'm going to do is do times 5. Old school, so I drop in my semicolon at the end, although you don't need to do that anymore, and enter, not return, to do that. So that meant it would keep evolving that as it goes along. So we'll get that footage just there going along. I'm just going to undo that actually back to the point where I had the original, because I want to see what I did actually put in there. All right, okay, and it's because I've done it with a thingy, I'll have to do it there. So let's go back to there. I'm pretty sure I did time times 5. I've got another way to find out anyway. But there we go. We'll go with 5 like that. Yeah, there you go. And you can see that that evolves over time. So you're just getting this light speckling going on inside of there. And when you bring all of that together, those things, you've got that adjustment layer working on top of it. And on like so with the content that's underneath. I'm using the master renders file here. That's why that's probably acting up a little bit. There we are. So now we should have everything underneath it. Don't quite, have I jumped into that comp? Weird.
I mean, that's right on time because, well, we are over the 90 minutes. So I think.
We are. Oh no.
It's about time.
Right. I'm just wondering, Tim, why I'm not seeing all of the renders underneath there, because I should be. What did I hit? What did I hit? They're all on. That's wacky.
Stuart says, how do you even know that fractal noise would create that? It is so massive.
It is humongous. It is.
Well, yeah, it's just playing around. Most effects can start with fractal noise because it's a great way to bring in some randomness. And when you just play around with presets, try some sliding around some of the values and sliders, you really quickly discover how you can create multiple different effects out of... Oh, Tony's gone. Right.
Oh no, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm just wondering here.
And I'm gone.
With the invisibility cloak. You are so funny. Oh, and then the titles comp. I didn't mention the titles comp, which is on top there. But anyway, right, let me just back this up a little bit so we get back to where we were with that layer. So there we are. Everything's now on. Ready for a run through?
Full screen, please.
I did solo a layer, Gareth. You're quite right. But anyway, here we go. Ready?
Well, hang on, full screen. Go into big mode. Cinema mode.
Oh, all right, I'll go big mode.
Yeah.
There we are. Here we go. This is it with vocals by myself and my daughter Chloe and Tim and Tim's fantastic musical talents to give us toast
and bonus points whoever discovers where I'm in.
Here are Tim and Tony with a new Adobe line. It's our latest title shot, made in 1 hour 25. Or thereabouts at any rate, we really cannot know. While we answer comments you make throughout the show.
We're gonna do some blending and also paralyze. Then Tim say we'll take the sound to smooth out all the tracks.
Okay, back into A, the typography is next. Then we will wrap up the show. So ruthless isn't vexed.
And yes, hang on, who said it? Hang on, Kirsty. Yes, 10. No, it wasn't Kirsty. It was.
When I was on the comment anymore.
Stuart said the wind sound. Yes,
the wind sound was brilliant. The whole thing was brilliant, Tim.
And at the end, I was actually singing also when there was some harmony.
So there we go. So we got something in. So Rufus wasn't vexed. At the end of the week, this week on Discord, we'll put it on Discord with subtitles so you can see what the lyrics actually are for it if you haven't uncovered them all already, and enjoy it. And thank you, Maddie. Chloe has got an amazing voice. She's an incredible singer. And just lucky that she works here, and she's cool with going along with me and being in the booth and just doing a bit of recording. But it was all good, all done between here and Germany. Excellent stuff.
Some of the recordings were done at midnight and parts of the soundtrack too. So
yes.
But I really like that. When Tony asked me first, like, hey, can we do the Totes Defective title show? I was thinking, oh no. And when I was watching the original soundtrack to spot how I could do it, I was thinking again, oh no, I can't do that.
I sent you some totally random karaoke version of something, as if you could have a karaoke version for that. But anyway, there you go. But we've been looking forward to sharing this with you for the last couple of days. We recorded the vocal stuff on Monday. Tim stitched it all together. So excited. I must have listened to it about 12 times on Monday evening. And then there we go. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want more of our title shots, Emma's in the chat right now. So she's the person to let know. We can do more, but just maybe one a month, right? Because 2 in 2 weeks is a bit intense. And I think at Christmas we should do the Brady Bunch with all of the Adobe hosts.
All right. Well, then, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And of course, everyone. Tony, for all the work you did. It was really, really fun. And again, I haven't seen the compositions before we started the stream. I specifically didn't look at the preview monitor because I wanted to be surprised. And I suppose there's just one last thing to say. If you have enjoyed this, make sure to tune in every week. We're here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Do I have the schedule for this week? Yes, I do. Look at that. So if just
don't forget to join us on Discord too as well.
I was just about to get that.
Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry.
Right. On Friday, we will have an off session. That's with 3 Fs. And it's Carl will be joined by Natalie, and they will talk about being inside the studio, because Carl has a great studio, and that's be lots of fun. It will be a recurring series with new guests from off, so that's super duper fun. And if you have missed the stream from Monday, Maddie and Emma were talking about Adobe Spark video, so that was also really nice. So I suppose, like you said, if you want to see the full version of the composition of the title sequence, make sure to come on over to Discord. And I think Tony will post it soon-ish.
Yeah. Thursday or Friday.
And I'm thinking, should we, because we talked about you said the Yeehaw version, should we post it on Discord or should we play it here?
Oh, play it here. It'd be a good way to play us out. And by the way, Emma says we've got to do one every Wednesday now.
No. I think I'm busy, you know.
Yeah, I'm washing my hair.
Okay, let's see if I can add it to the outro. Let's see. Because we didn't plan this again. Sorry. Yeah. Yes.
But that's what we do.
So during the outro, you will hear, because it was like super late on a Sunday evening, and Tony said, let's do a True Detective. And I'm like, oh, great. And I had just too much fun with the first scratch vocals Tony sent me, and it was a bit too upbeat before we went in different directions. So without further ado, enjoy the upbeat spin-off version of the Totes Defective. And from all of us over here, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. If you want, you can totally watch the US streams later today. And I thank you for watching. So see you soon, everybody. Bye. And enjoy the weird spin-off version.
Here are Tim and Tony with a new Adobe. It's our latest